All right, perfect. Episode 236, Brentford and Burnley. I've long given up trying to have any real sense of control over a dual game episode because we inevitably end up flitting between the two anyway. I'm just going to get that out there right away. If you're looking for the kind of structured approach that we have in a regular podcast with just one game, this is the wrong episode for you, as will the next about half a dozen as Christmas comes as, and the last three, I think, is probably
It's reign
included in that.
supreme.
Yes, chaos does currently reign supreme, and it's not just here, because although I feel yesterday's result was really poor, we've had quite a few wild results in the last week or so of Premier League football. Arsenal had to wait until I think it was the 97th minute to scrape a win at Luton 4-3. We've had Fulham put 5 past Forest and then promptly go and do the same thing this weekend against West Ham, which is absolutely mental. We've had Aston Villa take 6 points off of Manchester City and Arsenal at home, 1-0 apiece. We've had Manchester United, who are in absolute shambles, both get dicked by Bournemouth at home and obviously beat Chelsea anyway. We've had just some wild results, haven't we? Sheffield United picking up a win at home to Brentford as well. We've had Luton scared the hell out of Manchester City today as well. We've had Everton put 2 past Chelsea and look relatively comfortable from what I've heard. On the face of things, we're just another result amongst all the others, aren't we? With a 1-1 draw, and arguably we're a lot better off than some of these people, i.e. Manchester United and Chelsea. It's been an absolutely mental week of football, and we're only just starting the Christmas period, fellas. Like, what is going to go on here in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we won't concede a goal in a game. That'd be the wackiest thing possible, wouldn't it?
Well, you've immediately gone too far.
Yeah, probably pushing it a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think especially after this last game, right? Well, I think everyone's fairly frustrated that we couldn't beat Burnley at home. I mean, you have to win that game, don't you? But then I look at it from the other standpoint. It's everything you've said in that this is not something that's not a predictable league at this particular moment in time. Everything is just thrown out the window at the moment. I think the first sort of signs you had of that as well is a lot of the sides that are competing in Europe at the moment are really struggling with their Premier League form. I think Newcastle's the one that really stands out to me. I mean, they're sort of struggling now in Europe, struggling now with their games in the Premier League, and now it seems to just it's just evolving for everyone else as well. So when you look at it in that regard, we are decimated by injuries, absolutely decimated. I know we all know that. But then you look at this last week and you go, well, we walked away with 4 points out of 6. With half the squads getting massages and in, recovery boots. That's okay. That's okay. I think we still sit 8th in the league. There are, depending on what happens in this Spurs-Newcastle game, we could hypothetically be 2 points from 5th. When you look at it like that, you go, all right. Oh, by the way, we could also go through first in our European group. So it's like with all the wackiness that's going on, with all the silliness, we're still there. And that's what I'm thinking about, as opposed to dwelling on the fact that we probably should have beaten bloody Burnley about 4-0.
It was just the hindsight's lovely, isn't it? I think with just echoing what you said, really, it's just you've got a whole 11 out with injuries, right? You're talking 11, 12 players at the moment. You're playing every 3 days. You managed to get, a win against Brentford, and we'll get onto that about how easy that seemed. And you dropped 2 points against Burnley, but it's the same Burnley that went to Sheffield United and beat them 5-0 whilst we drew with Sheffield United. So this is a league where I don't think anything is taken for granted, especially this year, especially last year, right? Come into this Christmas period, like Josh said, you're playing every 3 days. Everyone's playing every 3 days. At least now we've got a 3-day break and we don't have to fly anywhere or anything like that, and maybe get a day off here and there. But yeah, some weird results, and they'll be even weirder over Christmas, I can guarantee it.
I think that is the main thing for us too. We've got our last European game at home, and I think Adam, it was you that noted we don't go north of London until the new year.
Yeah,
which
big
is
London
huge for us.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, which is major for us though, isn't it? Like that's every little thing helps, and I think that's going to be part and parcel of it. Let's talk about this new tactic that De Zerbi whipped out over the last 2 games, to varying effect. But after sitting back and watching a little bit more of it, as much as I could to try and understand what was going on, it was almost Pep, his buddy Pep's formation, but doubled up. So he had Baleba play the new John Stones role that we've been seeing a lot. But he also insisted on playing inverted fullbacks, like Pep did a year and a half ago, like De Zerbi kind of made up on the fly at Sassuolo all those years ago. But instead of them being inverted, it was just straight up inverted into central attacking midfielders as and when possible, which allowed Jack Hinshelwood to get his first goal and Pascal Gross to become the most influential left back of all time over the course of 2 football games. What on earth is going on here? So Baleba was playing central defensive midfielder. He was playing centre back, libero, like the full like football manager repertoire. While we really did have Gross and Hinshelwood both play fullback and central attacking midfield, it was mental. The whole thing was just insane. And I think the biggest thing for me was Brentford had no idea what was going on, and they didn't suss it out over the course of 90 minutes. And Frank is not an idiot, and he just couldn't understand it. It was truly one of the weirdest things to see created, and to think of how quick the turnaround was to just make this thing up on the fly. Like it's crazy how well De Zerbi has these guys drilled, isn't it?
I still don't really understand what went on. Look, I know you just described it well, but I feel like I watched that game. Well, if anything, I guess I can sympathise with Thomas Frank. I felt like Thomas Frank. I was just watching it and thinking, I don't really know where anyone is actually playing. I think, yeah, you were right. I think we were all fairly shocked to see Baleba just here and then dropping back into central defence. There was so much movement that happened. It felt like everyone was switching positions fairly often. And of course, then when you add the subs in, that then modified things even more. I think we switched tactics at a certain point when the subs came on as well. And I feel like we definitely did that against Burnley. I'm pretty sure towards the end of the game when we made some subs, we went to a 4 at the back. I have no idea what occurred. But the fact is, Brentford were, I know they've been a little bit off the boil lately, but they were just downright abject, weren't they? But I don't know how much of that is due to the tactics that were employed, and how much of that was down to them just being rubbish. But especially on the left side, like our left side, I felt like we completely overwhelmed them. They had no answer to that left side grouping. And I don't want to, spoil any discussions that we'll have a little bit later, but I feel like there's one person in this team that enables the fact that we're allowed to play in this certain way. We're allowed to mix these tactics up, and people don't get massively confused. And that guy's Pascal Gross. And it's unbelievable what he brings to this team, both in terms of mentality, tactics, and then the fact that he's sort of dragged this group of players forward in the last 2 games in order to make things happen as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still don't get it either. I could probably watch it for the rest of the day and not understand. But also to Brentford, I think we're talking, how good we were, but then also just how bad Brentford were. I think they're also missing a fair few players as well, right? I think someone on Twitter or whatever, Norgard is probably their metronome, and gets everything else moving. And he wasn't available for that game. They've got a few people out, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. So we tried something just completely bizarre. Like I said, I still don't get it, but I'll echo Paco for Gross as well from Adam. Is just there's nothing he can't do at the moment, but also for Hinshelwood as well. It's just a very good game for him, obviously, as well. So just one of those weird ones where I kind of just watched it and the game just sort of passed me by because I didn't really make sense of it all. But it's just the Mr. Clutch comes up with an equalizer 4 minutes after the penalty, and we sort of didn't look back.
Yeah, let's talk penalty. Was it a penalty for you guys? I think that was probably one of Van Heck's worst games he's had in a while, which is a shame because he's been an absolute colossus in recent weeks for us. And I think we've all been quite happy to admit we've been proven wrong a little bit when he was very hot and cold at the end of last season, and we were a little bit worried about his viability going forward. But this was very much a cold performance, I think, against Brentford. But I'm not entirely sure it was a penalty, and it was a foul. I think it was a foul, but it seemed like the entire exchange started a fair bit outside the box. I was curious to find that they went along with it in VAR. Didn't really spend much time on that. Well, what were your thoughts on that, Van Heck in general, and the penalty itself, and how big of a miss Mbeumo is going to be for Brentford now?
It seemed really soft, didn't it? I think just Van Heck has lost his footing and just put an arm out, and I think Jan Out has made a lot out of it. I think it's really soft. I think even if that's the other foot, you think that it's not really a foul. And the Mbeumo injury is really bad for them as well, because he's the guy that's scoring the goals at the moment, especially with Tony out. So it's kind of that's a really bad loss for them. But I didn't think it was a penalty. I think it's soft regardless of who that's for.
Yeah, this is where you see the deficiency in these tactics a little bit, right? Baleba was caught out of position. That was the problem that caused Van Hecker to have to track back. I don't really blame Van Hecker here. Baleba was pushed up, and then he didn't track the guy back, and that's what caused the problem. So he was then the group was caught out of position badly. As you saw, Van Hecker then stumbles. It just looked like he was trying to hold his hand a little bit. I don't think it was a foul. But what else happens in that position? Like, it's sort of, that's what just ends up going on, doesn't it? As soon as you do anything to the player in that position, the ref is likely to give something. And look, sure, he's a good player. I couldn't care less about Brentford's injuries. No, it doesn't bother me. I don't sympathise with anyone at the moment, given our injury slate. My
fantasy Premier League cried itself to sleep that
not as much as mine did today when I got screwed by the bald fraud because I triple captained Haaland. Think about that. Yeah, awful.
Does that mean you now get a triple captain? Who did you vice?
Julian Alvarez with 1 assist.
I thought you were going to at least vice captain Salah. All right, well, that's how not to play FPL, fellas.
I would just do the opposite of what I do. Look at my team each week, and then just put the opposite players and captains in, and you'll be fine.
Just have you note from the podcast account which transfers you're making each week, so everyone can firmly avoid those transfers. It's probably a good option too.
I've started to get to the point where I think I might do the complete opposite of what I think is right, and that should serve me fairly well.
Yeah, it sounds like it might do. James in the chat noting that he thinks Baleba will be incredible for us, but he needs a season to bed in, and we won't see the real player until next season. Obviously, a shame Caicedo didn't give us one more year, but you say that, but Caicedo isn't exactly having a good season, is he? I don't know whether that's the Chelsea effect or just the way
it's the Chelsea effect. Who is at Chelsea?
Yeah, I know, it's lovely. But yeah, it was a bit of a soft pen. But like you say, Craig, 4 minutes later, Pascal Gross steps up alongside the obvious playmaker in Kaoru Mitoma. Who both really made an absolute hellscape of a left-hand side for that poor Brentford side. They tried, and they did a really good job, to be fair to them, on doubling up on Mitoma every single time. But as soon as he did that, it just led to so many openings for Pascal Gross. And we've learned over the 5-6 seasons, we've been frankly blessed to watch him in a blue and white striped shirt. You can't give him that much space that often. And you don't hit a ball as sweet as that too often, do you? Unless you are Pascal Gross, I suppose, in which 1 in 3 shots is hit that nicely. But what a goal to get us back on level terms within 4 minutes. Just outrageous technique.
Go on, Craig.
Oh, he's just too good, isn't he? I think we can... The next 45 minutes of this podcast could be about Pascal Gross if you really wanted it to be. But he's just and we've said it before, he's that guy that always pops up when you need him. Like when you need something to happen, when you need a decent finish, when you need a decent cross, when you have to have something that, put it into the mixer, like Mr. Reliable, Mr. Clutch, whatever you want to call him. But he always pops up with very important goals. And yeah, Adam alluded to it earlier, right? But he's someone that is always on the team sheet. It's someone that isn't rotated as much as maybe any other player is. And it's for a reason. He drags us through games sometimes. He is that good. But yeah, in terms of the finish, it's unbelievable. Just it pops up so nice for him, and nobody even moved before it even hit the bottom corner. It's makes it look so easy.
Scores that goal. Goes on, obviously, later in the game to put an amazing ball in for Hitchwood to score. And then, obviously, against Burnley, assists the goal for Adingra. I tell you also, one of the things that I was delighted about was the game against Burnley. Didn't we? Yeah, that was it. Buonanotte came on in the 85th minute. And then we got a free kick in like the 86th minute yesterday. I feel bad. Obviously, I don't want Dunk to be off the pitch. But as soon as I saw Gross step up, I thought, oh, thank God, we can actually just have someone strike the ball properly. And he did. He brought a save out of the keeper, didn't he? So, no, I don't know. He's just, this is, again, I know we said this before, but this is a guy who really, let's be honest, 18 months, 2 years ago, I want to say at this point, under Potter, goes through this like horrible, felt like forever span of games where he just wasn't there, just wasn't on it. And there were lots of discussions, ourselves included, when is it time for him to go out to pasture a little bit? And I mean, most important and best player of this team. I don't really at the moment. I know we talk about Matone, we talk about some others, but after the last few weeks and his performances, he's just. I'll put it this way. I would like to modify my call for who is going to be the what was the term that you coined to? I decided to say that the talisman of the team this year.
The talisman, yeah.
I obviously picked Milner. So again, similar to Fantasy Premier League, just do the opposite. Yeah, it's Pascal Gross first, second, and third, isn't it?
It's funny because I got that term from a podcast that I listened to called "Who Got the Assist." And they were the entire reason I started this podcast, actually, because they we're talking about how easy it was to start one. And I was like, I'll be an idiot and try. They do a Fantasy Premier League one. And they actually wrote up, and it was the first time I think they really went viral and started getting a lot of listeners. They wrote up their own article, and it was called The Talisman Theory. And it was literally all due to Pascal Gross's first season in Brighton's Premier League season, right? And how important one singular player can be on a a fantasy Premier League perspective for a football team. But just then in general, obviously they're able to do all the rest of it. And it's so funny that we're now looking at 2023, 6-7 seasons later, and we're now still talking about Pascal Gross. Outrageous. It's just insane. And it feels a bit sad for Dunk, really, because obviously he's the captain. He's excellent. But right now, if we went down this year, I don't even know how that physically would happen, but say we went down this year, something went mental, and you were well, who was the best player of the Premier League era for Brighton? Unfortunately, Lewis, I don't think you're going to get many votes, because I think everyone and their mum is picking Pascal Gross, aren't they? It's just impossible not to at this point.
In terms of influence, and I think attacking returns as well, yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's incredible how. And Adam, like you said, just the peaks and troughs of his sort of tenure. But we're in this sort of patch here where he's just indispensable, even when he's sort of, I say getting on a bit, right? That's a little bit rude, but he's going sort of past that sort of peak. But he gets called up by Germany. He's the first name on the team sheet. He's scorer assisting nearly every game at this point, and being able to influence games and move them in the direction we need them to. Europe, domestic, whatever. Unbelievable player. And I think, yeah, if Dunk deserves a statue, then I think Gross would be alongside it, right? It's just in terms of influence.
I mean, when does he even fall off, right? It's every attribute he has that makes him who he is and how special he is, none of them are going to be the ones that drop off with age.
Yeah,
right.
Just suited to longevity.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think it will limit his sort of jack in the box kind of. That's not jack in the box. Joker of the pack is the phrase I want. In terms of like where he's playing left back, right wing back, all over the place. I think you'll see it then condense into basically he sort of has to become a deep lying playmaker in the middle, and that's fine. And maybe you get a little bit of Milner-esque feeling from him, where sort of Milner sort of wants to play there, but we still shove him out left because he can run and he's not very fast, but he's got a good engine on him. You might get a little bit of that out of him. Yeah, it's ridiculous the quality that he has, isn't it? And that's the thing. That's the word. It's quality. Every time a game is stuck at 1-1, 2-2, and we get the ball, we've got 80% possession, and the ball's I want the ball at Pascal Gross's feet. And if it's not at his feet, I want it out wide to Matoma. And that's testament to the quality, isn't it?
£3 million, by the way. Feel like I've said that sentence in about like those 3 words in like 100 podcasts of 236, but £3 million.
How many grosses for one Anthony?
You'll have to get your calculator out for that, but that's a
lot. How much did they buy him for? What was
it was a lot of money. I'm not sure how many, but it was a lot.
It was like 85, I think it was, or like even like those touted
82 million pounds. And you said Pascal Gross, what was it? 3
million. Yeah.
I know we're not adjusting for inflation, but you could have a 27-man squad of Pascal Grosses instead of one Anthony.
And he can literally play in every position anyway, so that would genuinely work.
Anthony can't even play in his main position, so yeah.
Insane. Obviously, half-time comes around, and I think Brentford made a couple of changes. Obviously, Mbeumo coming off with the really bad injury, and I think we had a couple of others come on. But just after half-time, always a nice time to score, and it's that man again, Pascal Gross, with an absolutely unbelievable ball in to Jack Hinchelwood, who De Zerbi has been like gushing over the last 7 days as well. Like, I think we've got to have a bit of an in-depth conversation on Mr. Jack Hinchelwood, because he's not only come in and really started to adapt well to this system, right? Like, he did all right against Athens. He had a rough time of it at Chelsea, but like he gets it as he's getting in, he's getting more and more comfortable. And De Zerbi said that he thinks he's going to be his next Pascal Gross. And then also talked about him being Pascal Gross's son. Not sure what kind of accusations are being thrown out here by Roberto, but that's none of our business, whatever he wants to do. But it's just, there's a lot of love for Jack Hinchelwood from De Zerbi. And after we've just had a 8-minute like loving session over Pascal Gross, it's quite serious praise, isn't it, for an 18-year-old kid to be told by his manager that you're essentially the next talismanic figure of his football club.
Yeah, it's that feel-good factor as well, the whole goal, and just, we talk about all the wonder kids you bring in and bits and pieces. But yeah, he's doing well, right? Like you drag him to the summer series and questions are being asked, like this 18-year-old that's never been in the first team at all is suddenly coming on a pre-season tour to a different continent. So there's clearly something there, even pre-season, but sort of slowly bedding him in and having him play not in his right position, right? I think he's obviously versatile, but he can play right back, he can play centre mid, he can play it sort of anywhere at the moment. I think that's probably where the Gross links come from, right? Is being able to be adaptable and versatile. So and he's just able to be in the right place at the right time. You saw at Brentford as well, just going from one end of the pitch to the other. The clearance off the line is just being able to be in the right place and know where you need to be, and also be able to bang a header in the bottom corner. So he's got it, right? And I think everyone is sort of filling in with confidence at the moment as well, being able to have that player come on as well. Exciting. It's very exciting, especially if someone homegrown, as you say.
He's a very willing runner, isn't he? And you'd expect that, just given his youth. And you're right, like he's played in a variety of positions, even just in the handful of games that he's played so far for us. One thing I've noticed, even the last game and a half, is his ability, and I'm not just talking about the goal, his willingness to get into the opposition box as a runner. and this is a guy, frankly, that's basically playing right wing back for the most part. That like there is a guy ahead of him. It should be a Dingra. Like someone else is further up, but he's not afraid to get in there and get on the end of crosses. And we sometimes have missed that. And then he's obviously got the speed and energy to then just get back up the other end of the pitch. So he's yeah. I mean, I didn't think we'd be trying to rely on a Jack Hinchwood at his age this season, but needs must when it comes down to injuries. I want to, if you'll give me a pivot very quickly, I want to talk about Igor, because I tell you what, I don't know why it wasn't playing as soon as he signed. Not only does he look like a superhero, but he's playing incredibly well, like really well. No offense to him, but Adam Webster's in the absolute rearview mirror for me at this point.
He is, yeah, he is good. I think just he has the unfortunate thing of just coming in and maybe just being too recent or being one of the latter centre backs to come in, that you're just naturally behind Dunk, and Van Hecke's been playing out of his skin, barring the last sort of couple of games where he's had a hiccup. So you've got centre backs that are playing really, really well, and he's just at the back of the line at the moment when he doesn't deserve to be. I think you see him come on at Burnley as well, put in a decent few tackles. He's so good at coming forward, and his passing is really good. You've got some serious centre backs there, and I think we spoke about it last week, Josh, with Robin as well. That you've got Dunk, Van Hecke, Igor. It's like who do you choose? And poor old Webster as well is way out in the field at the moment, considering how good those three are playing.
I mean, yeah, like Webster's done, right? Like I don't think it's time to look for another club in January, because otherwise, if we do, every single centre back in the squad will be come down with like some sort of flu for 5 weeks. But like he's got to stay. But I think that Adam, we've talked about it ad nauseum, really, that Adam Webster's probably one of the biggest losers from losing Potter and getting a hold of De Zerbi. And I don't think anything is changing that. I think it's looking more and more to be the case. If there's one of the names that's probably top of the list, right, that will be leaving in the summer, it's got to be Adam Webster, just for his sake and ours, really, don't you think?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, you probably look to bring in another depth signing, someone else that's just maybe a little bit more reliable. And because when you need to turn to someone when Dunk is out or whatever happens, you can't have a guy that feels like he's a bit perpetually injured. But again, if we give him the kiss of death here, he's going to come back and have some renaissance, isn't he? So we'll see what happens. I think it's funny when you said you've got Van Hecke, Dunk, Igor, X, Y, and Z. Like, who do you pick? Obviously, we go to this three at the back. I think the funny part is if you actually look at the heat maps for Burnley, our deepest player outside of Brentford Burnley was Belabor. So it sort of speaks volumes about how De Zerbi is really like making use of all these players in weird and wonderful ways. In which I think if you asked anyone 2 games ago, who'd be our deepest, closest to the goalkeeper player throughout a game, and it's Carlos Belabor, I don't think we would have predicted that. So who knows who he picks and who's going to play well. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we just saw like Milner play centre back at some point soon, depending on injuries. It's weird and wonderful, but it sort of works, doesn't it? Like, could have, of course, you expect the goal against Burnley, but if you look at the stats, for all intents and purposes, like what we had 29 shots against Burnley. So this is very easily a conversation where we come into this week, like 2 important games. You very well should have walked away with 6 points if you look at everything that we did. And we've played tactics that we've basically not really employed, players in positions they've not played in. That's massive. Like that says a lot. You'd expect pure capitulation in any other scenario. Yeah,
I think you're right. Let's also talk about another player that I think really deserves it. And that is the player that has the 4th most amount of minutes in this team than anyone else. Above him, Mitoma, Gross, and Dunk. Do you want to guess who that 4th most minutes played is?
Adingra.
Yeah. This guy came from USG last year, obviously, where he was on loan. I'm not even sure where he came from before that. Does anyone know off the top of their heads before I look into it?
It was a Danish team, wasn't it? They picked him up from the Right to Dream Academy in Africa.
You're right.
I think that was
Wow.
it. I can't remember the name, but I wouldn't be able to say it. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to
I'm
say
not going to
it.
try and butcher it, but you're spot on. Yeah. Took a bit of a Brentford signing, but he's played more minutes than anyone else other than those three names, and quite significantly too. The next one below him is over 100 minutes behind him. Next to no Premier League experience. He tore up the Belgian Premier League, but there's only so much you can make of that, right? Like there's other players that have done superbly well in there and been crap, and there's players that have been frankly bang average. Mitoma, who has now destroyed the Premier League. So it's tough to know what's going to come from him, but he was the one that stepped up for the equaliser. We talk about Pascal Gross stepping up with the excellent cross, and it was, but Simon Adingra has had a rough time of it. He wasn't expecting to be given this level of responsibility. I don't think anyone expected him to. But January is fast approaching, and Adingra is going to be gone for a month. We're going to miss him, aren't we? Like, I can't believe that we're in a situation where we're thinking, holy shit, what do we do without Adingra?
I fully forgot about that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's always it was Basuma before, and now it's Adingra. Yeah, okay, thanks for that.
And Mitoma. He's gone for the Asian.
Oh, perfect. We don't need wingers. It's overrated.
Yeah, Adingra and Mitoma will both be going. One to Africa, one to the Asian. And I suspect Baleba too, right?
Yeah.
Does he play at 19 years of age?
That was going to be my question. That I'm not sure if he's being regularly picked. But the
Cameroon?
other two are.
Let's hope he isn't. We've got a dozen injuries as it is. We don't need to lose 3 more. You're joking.
Yeah, no offense, Carlos. I know it'd be a great opportunity, but like, no.
Hey, yeah, maybe next time. You're 19, son. Like, sit this one out.
Yeah, I mean, he's been very impressive, hasn't he? Like, I think Albion Analytics even put something out about an hour ago how he's got a goal or assist every 163 minutes. Absolute boatload of dribbles, and you see that just by watching him. Right, he's getting involved. He's putting a bunch of crosses in, tons of touches. I thought he was. Having said all that, I thought he was crap against Brentford. His first touch was awful. And a few basically just completely wasted situations. But then I thought it was really impressive against Burnley. And you can see that if you look at the stats, his like pass accuracy against Burnley was 90+%. And then if you look at it against Brentford, he was down at 76%. It wasn't his best game, but we're throwing him to the wolves. And the fact is, I mean, he's outside of just the odd sort of performance where you're like, oh, that wasn't that great. He's dangerous, incredibly dangerous player. He's got a better shot on him that he's got any right to have. And kid hasn't even grown into his body yet. Like you could see that, but he always looks like he's going to beat his man. And between him and then Mitoma on the other side, like it's like you're really keeping those wing backs on their toes. He's 21. Like it's exciting to think about what he can be like when he's actually like played more than 15, 16 games for this club.
4 goals and an assist already. Not bad, is it? Not bad at all. Toby saying we need Enciso and March back. Well, you may as well forget the name Solly March, Toby.
Yeah, March is gone.
He's done. Yeah, we're not going to be seeing him for quite a while.
Didn't he have 2 surgeries?
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah. So he's done for a little while. Toby also in the chat talking about De Zerbi's body language on the sideline, saying that if the Champions League comes knocking, he's probably bouncing. I wouldn't pay too much attention to body language. It's De Zerbi. He sometimes is absolutely delighted and like complains, and then other times he's like really upset and like he seems delighted. So I won't worry about body language. I think let's just wait and see when that new contract formulates, if it does. We've got all the way until the summer to get this contract extension done, because it's a not so much like well-kept secret that he's got a clause that he can't leave mid-season, probably smartly implemented given the Potter situation. But I think a lot of very reliable blue ticks have all basically came to the same conclusion that he can't leave until the summer. So we basically got him tied down until the summer to get this new deal over the line. And from everything you've heard, it sounds like Tony Bloom and Paul Barber are two of the best salespeople in terms of representing the club you could ask for. So if he wants to sign, I think we'll keep him for a little bit longer. Mikey as well in the chat. I would love to hear more from Toby and James if you were there yesterday. I had the day from hell yesterday, so I did not get to attend the Burnley game. And that was before even attending the Burnley game. I didn't get to attend because it was just such a shit show. So we got to London on Friday, went to see a comedy show, and from midnight onwards, it was just such a disaster that we ended up just going home halfway through.
Comedy of errors.
It was a comedy of errors. The only good thing was the comedy show, basically. But Mikey wants to talk about the atmosphere on Saturday. It was mostly rocking last season, but Saturday against Burnley was one of the worst I've ever seen at the Amex. Defo had an impact on the players in the first half. First of all, Toby, James, Stephen, anyone who was there in the chat or just listening in, hop on the chat. Let us know what you thought of the atmosphere yesterday at the Amex. There was a lot of empty seats, I will say, both Wednesday and Saturday. But I think it's really important to note the things that people are being put up against here. Now I'm home and enduring the same shit show as everybody else. It's easier for me to see it. And there was no trains at all on Wednesday. Wednesday was a mess. Total shit show. All the trains are on strike in Southern, so there was no way through. Yesterday, there was flooding at Falmer, so they ended up not being able to send through the minuscule amount of trains that were going to go through until much later on in the day anyway. They added buses. My sister went to get on the first bus she got to. It broke down there in the bus stop, so that screwed 50, 60 people trying to get there. If I had to be honest, if you are a person that is making this effort to get there and going through all this drama and frankly, like shit situation, right? Like it's not fun. No one's having a fun time doing this. You get to the Amex and you sit down and you're just fucking tired. Like I know I have been like, you're already tired and the game hasn't even kicked off. From another thing as well, Stephen said, it's also Christmas time. People are tight for money. We got Marseille on Thursday. People may have prioritized going to Marseille, which is absolutely understandable. It could be our last ever European game in a group stage ever at the Amex. Like it could be at one of millions. Like we don't know. So a lot of people are going to prioritize that. You've got game after game after game. You've got Arsenal. You've got Palace. There's a lot of games coming up. I think it's a bit harsh to really slate the Amex atmosphere yesterday or Wednesday. I think there's a lot of outside issues going on in the last 10 days, mainly around transportation. And I think it's a little bit harsh to give them a lot of shit.
It's never been amazing, is it? Let's be honest with ourselves. It's not like a cauldron. I'd probably imagine for most of the away teams, they come to Brighton and they're like, no, it's be all right, wouldn't it? There'll be a bit of jeering and then we'll sort of have a fairly pleasant experience. I mean, you can look at the home form outside of Europe. We obviously beat Brentford this week, but before we hadn't got 3 points at home before that since Bournemouth, 24th of September. So it's not really a place where I guess the crowd is doing much to bring everyone, push the players on. It's not that. It's not a. I'm trying to say it's not an Anfield. It's not. I'm trying to think of all those other places where you've got you viscerally feel the crowd. It's never been that, right? I mean, I'm not saying anything out of turn here. It's never been that. Is it more quiet? I don't know. I'm not there, but based on what Mikey and Co are saying, you guys that go week in, week out, yeah, maybe it's a bit worse at the moment. I will say, just to counter everything that I've just said, like, what more do we want from the players in that second half against Burnley? Like, they came out in the second half and just in the second half had 19 shots, 7 corner kicks, 5 free kicks, multiple like big chances, 16 shots inside the box in the second half, 75% possession and an XG of 2.1. Like it could be a fucking library. That's still good. So how important is it? Is it going to change? I don't know. But if we put another ball in the back of the net there, I don't think it's a discussion point, right?
I don't think it's anything to do with the performance or anything like that, right? The attendance is probably just down to fatigue, right? There's a hell of a lot of games. You just had a home game on Wednesday. You now need to go there on Saturday again. Both of those times have been an absolute mess in terms of transportation, etc. I wouldn't forgive a couple of people if they went, actually, I'm probably just going to pass on that one. And like Josh said, I'll just go next Thursday, right? Because going every other week is one thing, but going to 2 home games in 3 days is another, right? It's hard. Times are tough. Money's tight. Christmas time, 2 games in 3 days. It's an absolute nightmare to get to the ground anyway. I'll just go on Thursday. And I don't begrudge some people taking that in that way. Typically a home game is every 2 weeks, right? So 2 in 3 days is a little bit much. And like you said, Adam, it's nothing to do with the performance whatsoever. XG of 2.1 in 45 minutes of football is good. And we huffed and we puffed and we tried to get the result at the end there, especially at Burnley. It's nothing to do with the performance. We're still playing really well with a dozen injuries. So it's nothing to be concerned about. And I think, like you said, anyway, like it's not exactly like it's a devilish place to come in the first place.
Let's keep on the bad while we're at it, and talk about 2 players that really stood out like a pair of sore thumbs, really, in terms of just looking totally.
I see where this is going.
And unfortunately, they were both present on Saturday instead. A returning Mahoud Dahoud, who looked like every piece of improvement he had slowly picked up over the course of the last couple of months has gone by the wayside, and just looked like a shocking Premier League player. And everyone's best friend, James Milner, who, for the most part, in that first half, and most of the second, really, while he was still on, was a solid reason why Burnley presented so much threat. They targeted him. They scored thanks to him and his poor defending. I think it actually deflected off of him as well. If there's ever an argument to not give De Zerbi a new contract, it's playing him at right back. I think you should just possibly fire him on the spot if he does it again.
I don't know what it's about. And it's
he was left wing back, wasn't he, against Burnley?
Yeah, the James Milner thing, right? We talked about it half to death. His role for me is coming on with 20 minutes to go to shore up the defense and just give us a little bit of energy and see off the game in a very veteran way, right? That seems like the best place for him. But it's the Dahoud thing is weird, right? I like Dahoud. I think we were saying in the chat, like trying to like him and try to enjoy what he is. I think Dahoud and Baleba in the middle is a very good idea. I think a silky passer with a combative midfielder feels like the right thing. However, Dahoud is not doing himself any favors by regressing, as Josh has said, in some ways, and maybe picking up a little bit of rust because he hasn't played for a few games, right? It's just not somebody. That type of player is not something that we can carry as a team and not see it very evidently. So needs to be better. The Milner thing, again, talked about it half to death. The Dahoud thing is concerning. We know the qualities that he has. He's just not showing them.
Yeah. No, he wasn't good. Dahoud wasn't good. Milner, I don't even know if I'd have called out Milner. I thought you were going to say Lallana. But, I think at the half time. Yeah. Having said that, there was a passage of play in the first half where it honestly it looked like total football, Cruyff era Netherlands play, with Lallana being involved in that, where it just felt like these intricate little passes and then nearly resulted in something. Capable of that, but he's just he didn't really do a ton. He was really pushed up, Lallana. Like tactically, we were fairly. I mean, it was really aggressive against Burnley. Like we were really aggressive. Dahoud was incredibly deep, but didn't do anything to actually sort of quote unquote like quarterback things. You would expect when you play there, you should be pinging out passes and doing something more, and he just didn't. But yeah, Milner, we were so left side centric. Like if you go and look at where everyone was positioned, everyone was on the left. and then it was just a Dinger on his own on the right-hand side. Everyone was on the left. Lallana was drifted over to the left. Obviously, we know João Pedro was playing out left. Pascal Gross was left side bias. Like everyone was slanted over there. But I don't know. Maybe that doesn't play into how Dahoud wants to play. Like he just, as you say, every step forward he takes, it feels like he takes a step back. And right now, for me, he's sort of the last person I want to see on the. Like I'd just rather Hinshelwood, like anyone else, I'd rather see play over Dahoud right now. And I think probably the same with Milner. And when you bring on Billy Gilmore right at half time, he was one of the and Kyron Matoma, different game, completely different game. And I'd rather see that. I know people have been a little bit annoyed at Gilmore recently. I still think the positives outweigh the negatives in his game. His ceiling is so high.
He got away with a few passes at Brentford. I think there was like I'm not dissing him at all. I want Gilmore to start because I think he's fantastic, and like you said, the ceiling is unparalleled, right? But there was a few moments in that Brentford team where if they weren't so abject, we probably would have been in trouble. So one of those games where we were able to get away with it, but there was a few wayward passes there from Gilmore that was uncharacteristic. But again, I'm highlighting something in a win against Brentford. So like how bad can it be? So
you're right, but can I undermine you with data? Like
absolutely.
Everyone loves.
I enjoy that. Actually.
Yeah, it's perfect, isn't it? He had a 91% pass accuracy, fourth highest on the team. 3 key passes, highest on the team. 6 crosses, highest on the team. No one else had more than 2. 3 accurate crosses, higher than anyone else. Accurate long balls, 5 out of 5. Like I think when he makes a mistake, to agree, I agree with you, by the way. When he makes a mistake, it looks bad because it feels like when he makes the mistake, because he's playing that role right in the middle, you lose the ball. It's like, oh crap, we're so pushed up. Gilmore's done it again. Van Hecker's like out of position, all of that stuff, and it looks awful. Outside of that, he's just so good when he doesn't do that. That's my take on
the pros outweigh the cons there, right? There's no doubting like his passing ability is great. I think you get into that sort of goalkeeper mentality where a mistake is a lot worse if Billy Gilmore does it than maybe a winger does it or someone more pushed up does. It leaves you more exposed. But he rarely does it. I think there was a couple of times where I think a better team could have punished us there, but we were just quite fortunate that Brentford just weren't at the races.
Agree.
Let's talk one more bad thing, and it's related to Stephen's comment in the chat about Spider-Man in goal. James Trafford signed after Bart Verbruggen signed for Brighton for Burnley, so inevitably he was about to have the game of his life. 21 years old, he's played every game this season, cutting his teeth at the highest level. He's conceded a lot of goals, but I'm sure he's learned an awful lot. He has a high caliber, right? He's played at the very highest level in terms of youth football at his nation. Won the Euro 21s, I think it was, last year without conceding a single goal, and was instrumental in that, at least in the final. On the other hand, Brighton played Bart Verbruggen yesterday after playing Jason Steele for 2 games before that, playing Bart for 2 games before that, playing Jason 3 games before that, and Bart for 2 more before that. And that's true. I just looked them up. This is an older goalkeeper whose shot percentage is in the bottom half of all goalkeepers in the Premier League in Jason Steele, with one of the best pass accuracy rates in the goal. Like, is basically an outfield player level of excellency. But we've also got a 21-year-old, also elite goalkeeper at his level. He played in that same tournament as Trafford, and even though they didn't win it, he came out looking like $1 million. It's the reason why so many clubs are interested in him, and 2 went hell for leather to get him. This is another conversation that's done to death, but we're now having Bart Verbruggen back in goal. It's just bizarre that we're continuing this. It's now December the 10th, and we are continuing to rotate our goalkeeper every 2 to 3 games. Not cup goalkeepers, not first choice goalkeepers, no injuries. We are doing something that no club has ever done that I can remember at top level history, and rotated and basically had 2 first choice goalkeepers. and we have not kept a clean sheet in the Premier League this season. Do you think they're related? Do you think that this is going to be good? Like, do you want this to continue going forward? Like, do you think this is as big a deal as I think it is? Because I hate it, and I'm starting to lose my shit seeing it every 3 weeks. Like, just pick one and go with it. Even though I want Bart to be it, I'd rather you pick Jason and stick with it than like do this, because I think it is having an effect.
Yeah, I do. I think we've like you said, we've talked about this so many times. But it's just the level of rotation just equals inconsistency for me, right? It's not the goalkeeper rotation has more of an effect than the defensive rotation does. Like, you can put Van Hecke, Igor, Dunk, Webster, those four can switch around. You can put Veltman in that mix as well. And you can rotate that as much as you want. That will have a minimal effect / moderate, but also not sticking with the goalkeeper when you're doing so much defensive rotation is having an impact, right? As long as the goalkeeper is staying the same, you can rotate in front of him. But by rotating the goalkeeper as well as the defense, you're adding another variable into that mix, and just consistently rotating around. And I do think it's having an effect. I agree with you. I think we should just choose one and stick with them. You can have one Europa FA Cup goalkeeper. You can have one league goalkeeper, and maintain the level of consistency at some level, right? You've got a dozen or so injuries as well. It's very difficult to do that. But the one position that we can stick with, we are also not sticking with. So that's an active choice, as opposed to a necessity. So yeah, like I said, we've spoken about it a lot, but just one goalkeeper, please, and just have a cup goalkeeper, or something like that.
Yeah, it feels like De Zerbi might be outthinking himself a little bit on this one, doesn't it? Like, maybe he feels like he owes Steele for last season. Maybe he feels like Verbruggen is not ready yet to have a full slate of games. I think that the thing where, and I'm leaping to a conclusion here, I don't know whether this is, completely uncorrelated, but that horrible, like, out of the blocks play that we have every single game, it feels like, where either it's the first 5 minutes or the first 20 minutes where we're just not at the races at all, misplaced passes. It looks like we're completely on the back foot. You can't help but think maybe the person that's controlling all the gameplay and the way the system works, maybe just is trying to get a feel for the game. It's like, oh, hold on, who am I? I'm playing. Am I today? Yeah, for Brugge, Bart, you're out. Okay, who's my defense? Oh, Believe is actually going to be your deepest centre back today. What? How do I do that again? Like, where's he going to be? Oh, you're playing at 3 at the back instead of a 4 at the back today. Well, hold on. I haven't played for 2 weeks. And the last 2 weeks, we had like 5 different players playing in these positions and playing completely different formation. That's got to be hard. How was Verbruggen, like 7 years old? Like, that's difficult for anyone to figure out, even if you're incredibly experienced, given the importance of the goalkeeper on the team. And look, if he's trying to emulate Guardiola or do whatever, like one thing you give Guardiola is that if Edison plays, unless they're lobbing out a cup goalkeeper, and yeah, I would like to see some consistency there. It's a clean sweep from us, but yeah, I'm sure what we do is when he does move to just having one goalkeeper, we still have these same problems. We'll be like, well, we were wrong.
I would at least like to know, though. I really would. And just looking at some of the more in-depth stats is not great either. His, like, for example, in terms of crosses stopped, which is something that we've talked about ad nauseum as well, that we're quite weak at. Bart's at 8.5%, which is in the top 7. Jason Steele is 19th with just 3. Makes a big difference when you think of how many goals we conceded from that point of view. Steele's conceded 7 more than Verbruggen. We've got it's just not great, guys. If you look into it a little bit deeper, there's not some good stuff going on here. It's really poor. Corners, for example, Jason Steele's conceded 3 goals from a corner. Verbruggen, none. All the set piece stuff we talk about.
I don't blame the keeper for that. Defensively, we are a disaster at corners. Like, positioning wise, the attacking player always gets their head on the ball. Like, and yeah, you can blame the keeper for not controlling the area there, I guess, but there's more to it than that for me. But I agree with you. Like, statistically, the keepers look crap, don't they?
I think it plays into one another, though. I think if you've got a keeper that is coming and stopping more crosses and not conceding goals from corners at all, like you've got to. I think he is doing just enough at this point to cover the shortcomings of what is piss poor defending at corners and set pieces. Just enough. Whereas Steele hasn't got that dominance of his area. And it's showing because he's conceding goals in that area. And he's not stopping crosses anywhere near to a level that any other Premier League keeper is. Like, we're talking, he's 19th. Like, he is amongst the absolute bottom tier of goalkeepers that can command their area. That's not great in a team with such shit defending marking and general like cowardliness on the transition. Like, we are just so poor. Like, I think that helps having someone so much more in command of their box.
How much is this to do with the way we play? Because if you look at the games from this week, I know this is just a microcosm of how everything works, right? But Verbruggen didn't it was Steele, right? Against, I can't forget who played. It was Steele against Brentford. It didn't make a save. It was no set. He didn't make a single save. But somehow ended up with a minus 0.01 on a goals prevented metric, which is some weird nouveau calculation from some nerd somewhere. And then when you look at the Burnley game, right, when Verbruggen's playing, he had 2 saves. With 0.1 goals prevented. Conversely, Trafford at the other end had 10 saves with a 3 goals prevented. So it's almost like, because we have so much possession of the ball, I don't know whether it's almost the fact that these keepers like aren't playing every game, then they're not getting too much of a look in the games where we're like at 80% possession, and all they have to do is every 40 minutes the other team has a counter attack and they've got no chance of saving it because we've got one person back there and it's just blasted at them. It's a weird setup. I don't know how to sort of make accountability for it.
One final one, and I'm going to go deep into this now, and this is going to annoy Adam because he hates the level of stupidity in terms of stats. But in terms of post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed per 90 minutes.
What is that? That's not a thing.
Essentially, positive numbers suggest better luck or an above average ability to stop shots. All right. That's basically all it is. The higher the level, the better the goalkeeper in terms of shot stopping, right? Obviously, all the rest of it, passing and all that shit, doesn't matter. Currently, do you want to guess who's number 1?
Well, I still don't understand what on earth this stat is. So the higher numbers better. Post-shot, say, what is it?
Post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed.
No, I still don't get it. Craig, you can answer. I can't.
No, I honestly don't know. But
Vicario, the guy that nobody had ever heard of and has like taken Spurs by storm. And generally has been like kind of worked out as the guy who's saving their ass a lot with Ange's very unorthodox approach sometimes.
Right, they're pushed up into the other half, so he's better be half decent at saving.
Yeah. Do you know who else is pushed up in the other half and absolutely shocking on the transition?
Well, true.
And guess what goalkeeper is 21st out of 21 and by like a scary amount? Jason Steele. And that's just a fact. Like, it's just the way it is. Bart Verbruggen is 18. He's not much better, but he's in a much more condensed group of names here with Raya, Matt Turner, Edison. We've got a couple of players down there. And unfortunately, the reason Steele's worth talking about here is that even though he's only a few places lower, he is bottom, and it's by like 0.10. Like, it's not good. So yeah, I'm not happy with it. I want to just start Bart and leave it, but here we are. All right, I think we've covered both games pretty well. Let's cover our friends and partners at Green King. So obviously we are coming into the Christmas period, 10th of December today. Best way to watch it, down at your local Green King Sports Pub, of course. Went past a bunch of them yesterday. But after all, Christmas is a time to catch up with friends, old and new. So get the team to your local for refreshing pints, delicious food, and live action of every Christmas cracker. Love that pun every time I read it out. Every fixture from TNT, Sky, and Amazon, which are rearing their head for just about every midweek game in the UK for the next couple of weeks. Amazon Prime will also be covered. They're all live at Green King Sport. So that will mean wall-to-wall action on huge HD screens. So head to your local Green King and watch every winning goal, top bins, volley, and dodgy VAR decision. I'm going to start scrubbing that out, by the way, because we don't need to talk about it this week. So stop making me bring that up. In an atmosphere worth sharing, download the Green King Sport app. You'll receive 10% of drinks every single time there is sport on the TV. So get down there, get hammered, and have a good time. It's Christmas after all. Next up, Marseille and Arsenal back to back, nice and easy. What are we thinking here? Obviously, we rotated a fair bit in the last two games, and it certainly felt like we put out the weaker team against Burnley. Are we expecting to field what would you consider our stronger side against Marseille, and kind of doing the same again for Arsenal in terms of giving ourselves a bit of a weakened side?
Yeah, I think so. You have to go for that Marseille game, don't you? Because winning that game skips another European game, right? So you kind of want to go straight into that 16. You want to give yourself as much rest as you can over this period as well. So for me, I would definitely prioritize. I'd prioritize the Marseille game over the Arsenal game. And I think that's just my opinion. Being able to finish top of the group has its merits. And we're at home, so let's just go for it. I think the Arsenal game, you can rotate. What's Arsenal away, is it? So, for me, that feels like a little bit of a free hit with the injuries that we have, but we can also cause them problems. We always do over there. So Marseille's the one for me. I think you rotate for Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree completely. And then you've also, I know you've got Palace not that long after that, right? But 4 days after Arsenal. But they do get a week. They do get a week after that to recover.
I was going to point that out too, because we're about the only team in the Premier League that's going to get a week, because they've brought the Palace game forward and pushed the Spurs game back. We've actually been given a bit of a lucky break here, a bit of an early Christmas present, really, to keep on theme. Because that is not something that any other team is getting the pleasure of, really. We're very fortunate that we've got a full week of rest over the Christmas period.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to, hopefully we get some players back. And then it's our favorite time of year. It's going to be the January transfer window. We can speculate on who we bring in. And it invariably ends up being just no one.
Just no one at all.
Hopefully
what a great way to finish.
And Enciso is going to feel like it, isn't he? Enciso, I feel like, is a long-awaited, because the trajectory that kid was on felt astronomical, and him coming back is going to be special, right? He's the most excited I am for a player to come back out of everyone. I know other people might say Estupinian and all that kind of stuff, but Enciso's electric, and that's who you want to bring in for the remainder of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to disagree.
Yeah, I think if Fati's going to be out for a few months, like the Zerbi said as well, I still think you need to bring in a winger. I think João Pedro, like, for as good as he is, and I know we sort of glossed over him these two games, but I think him out on the left wing yesterday, or the Burnley game, just didn't really work. His natural tendency to come inside before anything is actually on its way was not ideal. We know how good he is, but that's not where I would play him. With Fati out and Enciso going to take some time to get back up to speed. March out indefinitely. Adingra going to Africa. Matoma going for the Asian Cup. It feels like the winger area is all of a sudden a real concern for us, whilst we had a plethora of options just 2 months ago. So I really hope we bring a winger in at minimum, just to help alleviate that mess in January.
Well, it looks like we are definitely very much in pursuit of football manager legend at this point for 2024. Valentin Barco is back on the menu, fellas. Seems that we are going for him hell for leather. And I think there's a couple, Manchester City amongst them. if you're listening, Valentin, I would take a look at the last time City gazumped us to a left back and see how old Sergio Gomez is doing. As his career slowly dies and withers because he can't even get on the bench these days. And you are going to get games if that really shitty picture of Estepinion's knee in a brace is anything to go by. You are going to get at minimum rotation games, right? Like there's going to be a position that is going to be rotated. I think that if we're going to sign someone, I think it's going to be him. I do worry that it'll be no one else. And I do worry that the argument will be, we don't need a winger. We're just bringing in Mazzolu, the fellow from Romania, that they're going to say, you don't need to worry about it. You've just got another 18-year-old spawned regen popping in through the system. It's tough, isn't it? Because when everyone's fit, all of a sudden there's a lot of wingers that won't have game time at all. So I'm not sure how they approach that with January and experience, and maybe we do something we don't often do and delve back into a loan market.
Getting a youngster in January to me is utterly pointless. What's a guy that's played, middle of nowhere, never played Premier League football, hasn't even got facial hair, is going to come in January and we'll expect something out of on a European football push? I wouldn't even want them to play any minutes at that point, right? So I'm in the market for someone older when we get around to this. We need someone with a little bit, someone like a James Milner to come in and really bring some quality. I just say that I don't like Barco, great for the future, but for me, summer signing, right? Even if you buy him now, just so Man City doesn't get him, that's great, but I don't think he sees any minutes.
Well, I can think of one person in the final third that we could do with. Someone that's just doesn't do anything pretty, but just scores goals generally. We've been looking for one for a little while. Obviously, Welbeck will be back, maybe for Palace, I think, De Zerbi said, and frankly, numbers will be helpful at that point. But just like a German player, maybe scoring loads in Bundesliga, that is actually our player that we've just shipped off on loan. I don't know.
Didn't he go on a permanent in the end?
No, I think there is I think there's a possible future fee, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It may even just be like a gentleman's agreement of possibility of spending that money. Now, there's been two schools of thought that no one has ever really been able to confirm amongst the journalists at the Albion. And one of them is that Undav wanted to go because he wanted guaranteed first team football, which is entirely fair. And in recent months and weeks, the story has been more that he was homesick and wanted to go home. If it's the latter, even if he has a recall option, you're not, right? There's no way you're going to do that to him. But we also have Sarmiento at West Bromwich Albion that Steve's in the chat's just brought up. Is it time to bring him back? He's had a couple of injuries at West Brom, which seems par for the course for him, but he's impressed every time he's played for them, I think.
Well, I'll look from a winger standpoint, given our current situation, anyone that has experience kicking a ball in the Premier League is probably fine at this point. Just given how bad it potentially could look, especially as you've reminded me and shocked me with the Matoma news and Adingra stuff, which I'm still not particularly happy about. And the other thing, look, Undav, whatever, the ship is completely sailed for me. He's happy, he's out farming again. This is his natural home. He can't. I'm good. Best wishes to the man. Also, I'm still not convinced that a number 9 in this system is the most important thing for us, right? Having someone up top there. We've seen, Evan Ferguson doesn't get a look in when he plays at the moment. A lot of the time, yes, he's got his quality for scoring, but what did he do yesterday?
Frustrated, wasn't he? Very frustrated.
Nothing. Got no service. Completely bogged down in the game. Nothing. Tight defense in the center. Nothing going. The ball was forced out wide constantly. And then when we put crosses in, we completely scuffed one and actually probably stopped us from scoring because there was 2 people behind him that probably could have slotted home. So I don't know. Like, that's not the priority for me. I know we're going to probably talk about 400 hours about this stuff, aren't we, Craig?
Yeah, but for once, it feels like we're not talking about a striker. Like we know that we have one. It's just providing the service or playing in a system that is going to suit him. At the moment, like you said, we're being pushed so far out wide and just going for the potluck cross in and just hope that Ferguson gets on the end of it. You do a stark contrast to that Newcastle game at home where he drops in super deep, has time and time, and then is able to do something with it. Like that's Ferguson in a nutshell.
Yeah.
With Welbeck being back, I think he's probably going to be a little bit more of a fox in the box, if you like, being able to, I guess, use his experience to get somewhere where maybe Ferguson is still trying to figure it out. But for once, it finally feels like when the striker is not the issue. It's more, okay, how do we get it to the striker and how do we get better at that? I think the winger situation I spoke about, but also just the central midfield as well, being able to sort of figure that out. And the consistent rotations aren't helping. Of course they're not. Frustrated figure is Ferguson. Obviously, he's not getting many touches at all. He's not getting a lot of chances, but it's not through a lack of effort.
The heading thing with Ferguson's a bit weird, isn't it? Like he's not. Think about all the headed goals we're scoring lately.
Well, it's just they were identical for Brentford and Burnley, right?
Well, a Dinger and Hinshelwood, who you expect to really get up.
It's like, well, the thing is that you put Ferguson in the middle, he's probably going to be bogged down by 2 or 3 defenders, leaves the back post free, and the Dinger and Hinshelwood are there. So it's not. There's a method to the madness. I think the same thing you're seeing with Matoma at the moment is you double up on Matoma, you double up on Ferguson, it leaves other people free. So it allows Hinshelwood, it allows Adingra to score, it allows Gross to put these balls into the box. It's almost like a sacrificial lamb, if you like, in that, it's going to get rid of 3 defenders by putting Ferguson there. It just enables another person to score. It's unfortunate because the numbers don't reflect that, and you're seeing 10 or 11 touches per game for Evan Ferguson, but his sheer presence at the moment is allowing other people to score.
Well, we had Pedro who's popped up a couple of times. When did you score that absolute monster header recently? Who was that against? Do you remember?
The corner.
Well, no, there was one against Chelsea, wasn't there? Was it Forest where he just like came out of nowhere and just blasted the header in?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's like he's. But again, it's part of that maybe because of Ferguson's there and he's distracting. I don't know, but I think Ferguson came off at that game and that's how Pedro scored. So Pedro seems to be able to do it. I don't know. Ferguson's still trying to find his way there, isn't he?
Yeah. Looks like 5th place is slowly drifting away from us because Tottenham are comfortably 2-0 up against Newcastle. And
but
the continuing issues with Newcastle and other European sides, they're just not having a good day of it. They're going to finish this round of games again on equal points to us. And when you think of how much money they've spent over the last couple of years, it's absolutely nuts, really, to think that, like you say, I'm very, very frustrated at taking 2 points from 6 against Sheffield United and Burnley. And yet here we are level on points with Newcastle, who have spent so much more, have so much more squad depth, frankly, and are still struggling with it, just a sheer volume of injuries, which rival our own. Let's talk Marseille, though, real quick. They've had a good couple of days. They battered Lyon at home 3-0 in the middle of the week.
It's a free win against Lyon.
And they are, I think they're bottom, aren't they?
They're bottom,
they are.
Yeah. They're rock bottom. Yeah. They fired up the manner. It's horrible, yeah.
Although they're currently experiencing a new manager bounce because they're 2-0 up at home to Toulouse. So
wow. Nothing to lose at that point, yeah.
Yeah, who are also absolutely crap, to be fair. But Marseille now sitting in 8th place. Decent run of games lately. Draws against Lille and Strasbourg and beating Rennes and, Lyon. They've got a game tonight against Lorient and obviously then come travelling to us on a Thursday. Different outfit to the one that we were hoping to be playing against last time before they got the new manager bounce and give us a little bit more issues. What's the thought here? They've had a couple of games in quick succession. I think France get a winter break, so they're kind of cramming in games early to be able to get that. So the fitness issue is going to be a bit of an issue for them as well. But they played 3-5-2 in midweek, totally different to the system they played before. They're fully under Gattuso now. What's the thought process here? Who are you hoping to see start? What are you worried about? What are you excited about? Do you think we win?
I hope we go for it. I want to see Veltman at right back again, please. And just have Gross and Gilmore in the middle would be lovely.
Just to interrupt really quick, he was out on bereavement this weekend.
Oh, so. He was. Oh, okay.
Who was?
Veltman.
Okay.
Valid. So if he's if he's available to play, then I would obviously love to see him there. I think probably Dunk he's there. Yeah, he is there. Just Gross and Gilmore in the middle would be lovely. Just to shore up the midfield. If you're playing a 3-5-2, you want something in that midfield. But I just hope we go for it. Right? There's nothing to lose here. If you don't win, you're in the same position. So just have to go for it. Try and sort of break it down. They're going to make it hard. They always do. I just hope, we show a good account of ourselves.
We are 100% winning this game. There is no doubt in my mind about this. And I think in my mind there's no risk of the idea of not going for it. I mean, when do we not go for? We go for every bloody game at this point. Like that's just the way we play. If you look at Marseille's away form, it's pretty crap. So they have in the league when they played away. I'm going to list off their last few games: draw, loss, 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 draw, draw. Their away record is 0 wins in the league, and three draws, 4 losses. Their home record is far better, right? 7 matches, 5 wins. They cannot play on the road. They are rubbish. They were able to go to Athens and get a win in Europe, which was impressive. They couldn't even beat Ajax at Amsterdam away. We are going to win this game clearly, and we're going to go top. That is my thought. I don't care who plays. Put anyone out there. Marseille are rubbish.
Oh, that's your fault now. All of it's your fault. I actually think we will win. It's my work Christmas party on Thursday night. It's the first game I've been missing all year, which means we'll dick them 3-0 and it'll be one of the best nights in Albion history. Because I'll be sat at some shitty work party. So that's absolutely how it's going to go down. I'm going to counter out your just like desperately jinxing us over here with the fact that I just can't watch it. So it inevitably will be excellent. All right, I think that's everything. Have we got anything else we want to talk about before we end?
Don't think so.
All right, superb. Well, we will be back next week. If you guys want to do a podcast Thursday, feel free. It's now Tottenham 3-0, by the way. So Richarlison has a brace, by the way. That's how poor Newcastle are playing. And we've got Arsenal on the Sunday. So I'll be there for that one. Looking forward to that. 2 o'clock kickoff on the Sunday. Big 2 games. And then just a slightly small issue of Crystal Palace away, slightly before Christmas as well.
I want to add one last thing. I know I said I didn't have anything, but that home game on the 28th of December against Spurs is going to be fascinating. Like, really fascinating game, because it could well be 7-7.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah,
I'm excited about that game.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how De Zerbi lines up against Ange and vice versa. They're both very entertaining managers, so I like them both. All right, we'll be back next week to talk about 2 massive games, really, for the Albion, and have a wonderful week. Make sure you get your Christmas shopping done, by the way. It's 10th of December. Figure it out.
Plenty of time. Don't do it yet. Cheers all.